Hello everyone. I would like to welcome you all in the Enterprise Systems Applications course. In this lecture, we will introduce the enterprise systems for management. The learning objectives of this lecture is to understand the information system evolution and the historical role in leading the systems integration. Learn about ERP systems meaning, components, and architecture, and understand the benefits and drawbacks of implementing ERP systems. Also, we are going to overview the implementation process of ERP and understand the role of people in the ERP implementation, and finally identify the ethical, global, and security challenges while implementing an ERP system, and look at the ERP vendors and industry trends. So first, I will overview enterprise resource planning system and the history of how they started, where they came from, and why they exist. The components of an ERP system and the complexities involved in implementing and supporting the system will also be discussed. Now, let's introduce the ERP systems.
Business organizations have become very complex. Why? Due to the increased layer of management hierarchy, the increased level of coordination across different departments, and the different information needs and requirements for staff and management layers. The management is generally categorized into three levels: the strategic, the middle or mid-management, and operational. At the strategic level, functions are highly unstructured and resources are undefined. Where functions are highly structured and resources are predefined at the operational level, the mid-management level is somewhere in between depending on the hierarchy and organizational size. Figure 1 will show the typical levels of management and corresponding information needs. The pyramid shape in Figure 1 shows the information needs at each level of management. The quantitative requirements are much less at the strategic level than at the operational level. However, the quantity of information needed at the top requires complex processing and presentation. The pyramid also should display the performance of the entire organization. For example, if the CEO requires a quick report stating how product X is performing in the market relating to other company products or competitive one over a period of time and in a specific geographical region, this report is not useful to an operations manager who is more interested in the detailed sales report of all products he is responsible for in the last month. The pyramid therefore suggests that managers at the high level require a small quantity of information with a very high quality. On the other hand, the operational level manager requires more detailed information and doesn't require a high level of analysis or aggregation. So today's enterprise systems are designed to serve these different requirements. There are several levels of decisions requirements, such as, at the top level, the unstructured decisions, where the decision maker must provide judgment, evaluation, and insight to solve problems. So he must decide entrance or exit from markets, approve capital budget, and decide long-term goals. Senior managers make many such unstructured decisions. For example, should we enter a new market? While the structured decisions at the bottom level are repetitive and routine, involve definite procedures for handling, so they don't have to be treated each time as new. For example, design a marketing plan or develop a departmental budget. Operational managers make more structured decisions, such as Does customer meet criteria for credit? Finally, in the middle, we found the semi-structured decisions, where only part of problem has clear answer provided by accepted procedures, such as restock inventory or offer credit to customer. The middle managers make more structured decisions, but these may include unstructured components. For example, why is order fulfillment report showing decline in specific area? Therefore, enterprise systems are a very important component for any successful organization today. They are essential part of the organization and provide automation support for most business functions, such as accounting, finance, marketing, customer service, human resources, and operations. In general, they play an important role in both primary and secondary activities of the organization's value chain. As organizations become larger and more complex, they tend to break functions into smaller units by assigning a group of specialized staff to specific activities. This allows the organization to manage complexity, enhance productivity and efficiency, which has always been the main role of information systems in supporting business activities and enhancing the efficiency. However, more time as business change and expands, systems need to change to keep control. That results a wide variety of information systems, which create a mixture of independent, non-integrated systems, where these systems create bottlenecks and interfere with productivity. In today's globally competitive environment, an organization will find it very difficult to operate and survive with the silo information systems. So, what's meant by silo information systems? An information silo is an information management system that is unable to freely communicate with other information management systems, as shown in the figure on the left side. Communication with an information silo is always vertical, making it difficult or impossible for the system to work with unrelated systems as in the middle side figure. But organizations need to be agile and flexible, which requires a flexible information system to integrate data, applications, and resources from across the organization, as in the figure on the right. Integrated information systems are needed today to focus on customers, to process efficiency, and to help build teams that bring employees together from cross-functional area. Today's competitive business is cross-functional, dynamic, and global, as most organizations have tried to remove the functional barriers that had existed for a long time. So to compete effectively in today's market, organizations must be customer-focused and cost-efficient, which requires cross-functional integration among different departments such as accounting, marketing, and other departments. That directed the creation of business units within the organizations to integrate and direct different functional units to work together on a variety of projects within an organization, as shown in the figure. Business units are dynamic sub-organizations that are created depending on the need and may exist for a few weeks or a few years, making it impossible to locate the staff in an adjacent geographical space. This requires that the information systems be flexible across the departmental boundaries. It also requires that the systems are accessible any place and any time. So in order to achieve that, organizations need enterprise systems to support the multifunctional requirements. That leads us to the Enterprise Resource Planning Systems, or ERP systems. Today's competitive business is cross-functional, dynamic, and global, as most organizations have tried to remove the functional barriers that had existed for a long time. So to compete effectively in today's market, Organizations must be customer-focused and cost-efficient, which requires cross-functional integration among different departments such as accounting, marketing, and other departments. That directed the creation of business units within the organizations to integrate and direct different functional units to work together on a variety of projects within an organization, as shown in the figure. Business units are dynamic sub-organizations that are created depending on the need and may exist for a few weeks or a few years, making it impossible to locate the staff in an adjacent geographical space. This requires that the information systems be flexible across the departmental boundaries. It also requires that the systems are accessible any place and any time. So in order to achieve that, organizations need enterprise systems to support the multifunctional requirements. That leads us to the Enterprise Resource Planning Systems, or ERP systems. Enterprise Resource Planning System, or ERP system, refers to a type of software that organizations use to manage day-to-day business activities, such as accounting, procurement, project management, risk and compliance management, and supply chain operations. ERP systems are comprehensive software applications that support critical organizational functions. ERP is usually referred to as a category of business management software that organizations can use to collect, store, manage, and interpret data from many business activities. The ERP shown in this figure is basically integrated information systems that support such enterprise functions such as accounting, financial, marketing, and production requirements of organizations. This allows for real-time data flows between the functional applications. Note that from now on, enterprise systems will be referred as ERP systems as a popular and commonly used term. ERP systems integrate different functional parts of the organization and the system within the organization with partners and suppliers using web-enabled graphical user interface, which means that they work using web clients that makes them accessible to all the employees, clients, partners, and vendors, anytime and any place, and so promoting the business unit's effectiveness. The main goal of ERP system is to make the flow of information dynamic and immediate to increase the value of the information. Moreover, an ERP system acts as a central repository, eliminating data redundancy and adding flexibility. There are also several reasons that makes companies implement ERP systems, such as increase supply chain efficiency, increase customer access to products and services, reduce operating costs, respond quickly to the changing marketplace, and extract business intelligence from the data. There are another important goal of ERP system, which is to integrate departments and functions across an organization into a single infrastructure that serves the needs of each department. This is difficult when considering that employees in the procurement department will have different needs than in the accounting department. Also, each department has its own system that is optimized for the ways the department does its work. So now we can summarize the previously mentioned goals of implementing ERP systems into 4 main groups. The first is the efficiency for improving the decision-making process by improving the collection, analysis, and reporting of data. It also reduces the need and cost of maintaining several databases or systems and helps in implementing best practices processes. The cost reduction group is considered the most important consideration in implementing an ERP system, It helps in reducing wastage in all forms of resources included and increase productivity, which contributes directly into the profit of the business. Achieving the quality goal is by ensuring the implementation of a system that meets the best practice requirements. It helps management to ensure the business is on an equal footing or better with competitors. A good ERP system will assist in the decentralization of the decision-making process, as all users can now have real-time access to the same information. It also ensures transparency across the board and reduces the possibility of the manipulation of data to make the functions in a specific department seem better than it really does. As shown in the figure, an ERP system combines departments and functions across the organization together into a single integrated software environment that works on a single database, which allows different departments to share information and communicate with each other more easily. To achieve this high level of integration, departments may give up some functionality for the overall benefit of integration. The main idea behind data integration is that clean data can be entered once into the system and then reused across all applications. So, ERP systems feature a set of integrated software modules and a central database that enables data to be shared by many different business processes and functional areas through the enterprise. In this table, we summarize the evolution of ERP from 1960s to 2000s. During the 60s and 70s, most organizations designed silo systems for their departments. As the production department grew bigger, with more complex inventory management and production scheduling, they designed, developed, and implemented centralized production systems to automate their inventory management and production schedules. With a focus on efficiency, these systems were designed to manage and track inventory of raw materials and guide supervisors on purchase orders, alerts, and targets, and finally to provide inventory reports. The efficiencies generated with these systems expanded to the manufacturing area to assist managers in production, planning, and control. This gave birth to material requirement planning systems in the mid-70s, which mainly involved planning the product or parts requirements according to the master production schedule. With a focus on sales and marketing, these systems were designed for shop scheduling processes, while material requirements planning system generates schedules for production planning, operations control, and inventory management. Later in the 80s, the manufacturing resource planning systems version 2 was introduced with a value on optimizing manufacturing processes by matching the materials with the production requirements. MRP2 included such areas as shop floor and distribution management, project management, finance, shop scheduling, time management, and engineering. With a focus on manufacturing strategy and quality control, these systems were designed for helping production managers in designing production supply chain process, from product planning, parts purchasing, inventory control, and overhead cost management to product distribution. ERP systems first appeared in the early 1990s to provide an integrated solutions to the increased complexity of business and support enterprise to sustain their compatibility in the dynamic global business environment. With a focus on application integration and customer service, these systems were designed for improving the performance of the internal business processes across the complete value chain of the organization. They integrate both primary business activities like product planning, purchasing, logistics, control, distribution, fulfillment, and sales. They also integrate secondary or support activities like marketing, finance, accounting, and human resources. Built on the technological foundations of MRP1 and MRP2, Erp Systems integrated business processes across both the primary and secondary activities of the organization's value chain, including manufacturing, distribution, accounting, finance, human resources management, project management, inventory management, service and maintenance, and transportation. With a focus on agility and customer-centric global environment, these systems extended the first generation ERP into inter-organizational system ready for e-business operations. They provide anywhere, anytime access to resources of the organization and their partners. They also integrate with newer external business modules such as supply chain management, customer relationship management, sales force automation, advanced planning and scheduling, and so on. ERP Systems' major achievement was to provide accessibility, visibility, and consistency across all functions of the enterprise. ERP2 systems today have expanded to integration and inter-organizational systems, providing back-end support for such electronic business functions such as business-to-business transactions and electronic data interchange. From the technological platform perspective, ERP have evolved from mainframe and centralized legacy applications to flexible tiered client-server architecture using the web platform. In this slide, we explain some of the ERP2 modules examples, such as Product Life Cycle Management System that can integrate data, processes, business systems, and people in an extended enterprise, allowing you to manage the information throughout the entire life cycle of the product from ideation, design, and manufacturing. Another example is a supply chain management, which is used to maximize customer value and achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. The enterprise asset management contains the management of the physical assets of an organization throughout each asset's life cycle. It's also used to plan, optimize, execute, and track the needed maintenance activities. CRM systems capture the customer relationships, maintain the use of customers' experience, and evaluate the knowledge management. Supplier relationship management is a discipline of planning and managing all interactions with third-party organizations that supply products or services to the organization in order to maximize the value of these interactions. Business intelligence include the strategies and technologies used by enterprises for data analysis and business information. BI technologies provide historical, current, and predictive views of business operations. Common functions of business intelligence technologies include reporting, online analytical processing, dashboards, development, data and process mining, and predictive analysis. An important role of ERP in business, beside integration of applications and organization information, is to position the organization to change its business processes. As defined, a business process is a series of tasks or activities grouped to achieve a business function or goal. For example, order processing may include such tasks as taking an order, checking inventory, and preparing invoice. Most organizations have a set of policies and procedures to guide their business process. So let's differentiate between policy, process, and procedures. Policy is the overall guidelines. It shows why we do what we do. At a statement of position or intent, this is what we believe in, and here's why we care about that. For example, as shown in the figure, the goal of the company is to deliver the product within 24 hours. Process is the flow of activities where we take inputs and turn them into outputs regarding the position or intent that is set by the policy. For example, the guidelines or flow of delivery process. Finally, procedures is the detailed instructions of steps that should be documented to ensure running the process every time in a right way. Now let's go back to business processes and ERP. The ERP software has hundreds of business processes built into the logic of the system. These processes may or may not agree with the organization's current business processes. That means the organization has two choices when implementing an ERP system. Either to change business processes to match the software's functionality, or to modify the ERP software to match the organization's business process. The consequences of selecting either options have a long-term impact on the organization in terms of its bottom line and the performance of its employees, customers, and other stakeholders. So what are these consequences? Change business processes to match the software functionality, also known as vanilla implementation, occurs only when organizations do not make major modifications to their ERP software during implementation. The advantage of this option is to maximize the benefits by taking advantage of the embedded best practices of business processes, while disadvantages include disruptions occurred in the organization functionality. Another disadvantage is that employees, business partners, and clients will have to be retrained on the new business process and the new ERP system. And finally, this option generates resistance from the users, adding to the training expenses of the implementation. The second option of modifying the ERP software to match the business processes has several disadvantages, such as any further upgrades to the system once it has been modified become expensive. Thus, every time an organization must upgrade the ERP system, the IT staff will have to upgrade the applications and upgrade the modifications. And these modifications will have to be re-engineered into the system when they are incompatible with the new version. Thus, management must pay very close attention to the organizational consequences of modifying or not modifying the ERP software to match their business processes, where a wrong decision can bring down the entire organization, whereas a right decision can bring large benefits. As shown in this figure, an ERP system, like any information system, has the goal of serving the organization by converting data into useful information for all the organizational stakeholders. So ERP systems has similar components that work together to achieve an organization's goal of enhanced efficiency and effectiveness of their business processes. ERP system depends on these components to perform the input, process, and output phases of the system. Among these components is the hardware, such as servers, software, such as operating systems and database, information, that is the organizational data from internal and external resources, process, including business processes, procedures, and policies, and finally people, such as end users and IT staff. The implementation team must carefully evaluate each component in relation to the others while developing an implementation plan, where hardware, software, and data play an important role in the ERP system implementation. However, failures are often caused by a lack of attention to the business processes and people components. So finally, both people involved and process integration will need to be addressed from the early stages in the implementation plan, and staff must be allowed to play a key role in the project from the beginning. As shown in this figure, each component must be layered correctly and each layer must support the efficiency of the other layers. The layered approach also provides the ability to change layers without affecting the other ones. This can help organizations lower the long-term maintenance of the ERP application, as changes in one layer do not require changes in other layers. Now we will discuss the ERP system architecture. A system architecture is a blueprint of the actual ERP system to transform the high-level ERP implementation strategy into an information flow with interrelations in the organization, and helps the implementation team to build the ERP system for an organization. The role of system architecture is similar to architecture of a house, which takes the vision of the house owner with the system components like the wiring and furnishing of a home. The architecture of the ERP implementation impacts the cost, maintenance, and the use of the system, where a flexible architecture allows the scalability of the system to handle the organization change and grow. The process of designing ERP system architecture is a little different from other IT architectures. Whereas other IT architectures are driven by organizational strategy and business processes, if purchased, while ERP architecture is often driven by the ERP vendor, which we refer to as package-driven architecture. An ERP package can have a very different implementation outcome from one organization to another. As shown in this example, the architecture of a large university, an ERP system can be very complex and must be designed and tested before implementing it in the organization. The architecture sets the stage for modifications or customization to support an organization's policies and procedures, data conversion, system maintenance, upgrades, backups, security, access, and controls. Many organizations often make the mistake of ignoring the system architecture stage and jumping directly into ERP implementation because they have planned a vanilla or as-is implementation, which can be disastrous because the organization will not be prepared for long-term maintenance of the system. There are two types of architectures for an ERP system: the logical and the physical architecture. The two types of architectures for an ERP system are logical as shown in the left side figure and the physical or tiered in the right side figure. The logical architecture focuses on supporting the requirements of the end users, whereas the physical architecture focuses on the efficiency of the system, such as cost and response time. The logical architecture provides the database schemas of entities and relationships at the lower tier, followed by the core business processes and business logic handled by the system at the second tier. The third tier provides details on the applications that support different business functions built into the ERP system. The end users do not ever see the first and second tiers because they interact mainly with the client user interface application tier that provides them access to the functional applications. The physical architecture have servers to host central databases and application programs, and PC clients to provide input, request service from server, perform, display, and processing. These functions are done in three layers. The first is the presentation layer at the client PC. The second is the client layer executing instructions from user, then transferring and receiving data from database. The third layer is a database layer for centrally managing data. In this slide, we will talk about e-business and ERP systems. The early predictions were based on the assumptions that these two technologies were competing for the same market. Actually, there are some similarities between them, as both provide platform for system integration or data sharing. However, e-business systems are better for sharing unstructured data and collaboration, while ERP systems are better for sharing structured or transaction data. E-business focus mainly on external integrations, while ERP systems focus on internal data integration. Therefore, e-business and ERP systems are more of complementary technologies rather than competing technologies as predicted earlier. So when we look at this figure, we see that the business strategy alignment is positioned in the intersection between the ERP and e-business systems. Now, this table summarizes the 4 major reasons for saying that e-business and ERP systems are more of complementary technologies than competitive ones. First, e-business technology focuses on linking a company with its external partners and stakeholders, while ERP focuses on integrating the functional silos of an organization into an enterprise application. The e-business technologies, such as business to consumer and business to business, generally focus on market growth by selling products and services to new consumers and markets. On the other hand, ERP technology succeeds in integrating business processes across the organization and in providing central repository of all data, information, and knowledge, thereby increasing organizational efficiency and working productivity. Second, e-business is a disruptive technology where e-business practically transformed the way business operates in terms of buying and selling, customer service, and its relations with suppliers. This caused a lot of disruptions in the organizational strategy, structure, and power. While ERP is considered an adaptive technology, as ERP has emerged the early data processing and integration efforts within a large corporation, which succeeded in integrating accounting, finance, human resource, and manufacturing technologies by aligning business processes with information processing logic and in transforming these organizations' structures to metrics and other flexible structures. Finally, the early focus of e-business was on communication, collaboration, marketing, and electronic commerce, which can be considered front office functions that involve users and customer interactions. On the other hand, the focus of ERP systems was mainly on data sharing, system integration, business process change, and improving decision-making through the access of data with a single source. These functions can be considered back-office functions that help the operational employees, vendors, and suppliers. For example, e-commerce, which manages selling online products, requires back-end support to fulfill the online order. This task can be efficient if the organization has an ERP system. Here we will discuss the benefits and limitations of ERP systems. ERP require a large investment from an organization in terms of cost, time, and people. These investments can run into millions of dollars over several years and involve hundreds of people from the organization. So no organizations will be willing to invest a huge amount of resources unless the benefits offset the costs. The benefits and limitations of ERP can be looked at from the systems and the business viewpoint. In this slide, we will discuss the system benefits and limitations of an ERP system. The organization management that implements an ERP system must account for the benefits and limitations of this system from all viewpoints and focus on the big picture to justify the huge investment in this system to the stakeholders. The system benefits of ERP system include integration of data and applications across functional areas of the organization, that improve accuracy and quality of data, whereas data can be entered once and used by all applications in the organization. Maintenance and support of the system improves as the IT staff is centralized and is trained to support the needs of users across the organization. Consistency of the user interface across various applications means less employee training, better productivity, and cross-functional job movements. Security of data and applications is enhanced due to better control and centralization of hardware, software, and network facilities. The system limitations of ERP systems are as follows. Complexity of uninstalling, configuring, and maintaining the system increases, thereby requiring specialized IT staff, hardware, network, and software resources. Consolidation of IT hardware, software, and people resources can be difficult to manage. Data conversion and transformation from an old system to a new one can be a very complex process. Retraining of IT staff and personnel to the new ERP system can produce resistance and reduce productivity over a period of time. The business benefits of ERP systems include increasing agility of the organization in terms of responding to changes in the environment for growth and maintaining the market share in the industry. Sharing of information across the departments means employees can cooperate easily with each other and work in teams. Linking and exchanging information in real time with its supply chain partners can improve efficiency and lower costs of products and services. The quality of customer service is better and quicker as information flows both up and down the organization structure and across all business units. Efficiency of business processes are enhanced due to business process re-engineering of organization functions. The limitations of ERP systems from business viewpoint include retraining of all employees with the new system can be costly and time-consuming. Change of business roles and department boundaries can create resistance to the new system. Reduction in cycle time in the supply chain from procurement of raw materials to production, distribution, warehousing, and collection. So let's see the next example of Microsoft ERP implementation. Microsoft rapid growth in the 1990s created major support problem for the IT staff, which felt it had lost control over the system they administrated. The problem occurred due to the number of redundant applications that had been developed to support the company's operations. At one point, 90% of the 20,000 batch programs that were retrieving and passing data between applications were redundant. The move to a single architecture with SAP improved integration between Microsoft business units and its suppliers and customers. Microsoft spent 10 months and $25 million replacing 33 existing systems in 26 sites with SAP. Microsoft claims to have saved $18 million annually as a result, and Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, has expressed great satisfaction with the SAP software. The key production benefits of ERP systems were reduction of planning cycle by 90%, reduction of delivery time by 10 to 40%, reduction of production time by 10 to 50%, lower stock levels by 10 to 25%, reduction of late deliveries by 25 to 50%, and finally increase in productivity by 2 to 5%. Now we will talk about ERP implementation. ERP systems are continuously changing and evolving to provide the organization with a new way of looking at business processes and decision making. Organizations are also continuously changing to match their environments, which need the flexibility to adapt with each other in order to be successful. System implementation are generally very complex, time-consuming, and resource-intensive. Because of its size and impact on the organization, an ERP system only increases this complexity. Therefore, before implementing ERP, an organization has to plan and understand the life cycle of these systems. In this section, I will discuss an overview of the ERP implementation process, which begins with Business Process Management, or BPM. So what is Business Process Management? BPM is the understanding, visibility, and control of business processes, where a business process represents a discrete series of activities or tasks that can span people, applications, business activities, and organizations. BPM is like other process improvement fields such as Lean Six Sigma, which are to improve organizations' performance and productivity. BPM has a given methodology that should be followed to help documenting business processes and understand where they are being used in the business. The initial stage of BPM is to create an as-is process map that defines the current process. The as-is process is then used as a baseline for determining where the process may be improved. However, documenting the current process doesn't give the business managers control over the process. The real value of BPM comes from gaining visibility and control of the business process. BPM can activate the process, orchestrate the people, data, and systems that are involved in the process. Given the business manager a detailed view into how the process is operating and where the bottlenecks are, and highlight possible process optimization. Process operational metrics are automatically collected by the BPM software, showing how the current process is operating. Business process managers can use different process improvement techniques to optimize the process. The impact of an improved business process can be realized in many ways, including improved customer satisfaction, reduction in costs, and increased productivity by allocating resources to more value-added activities. One way of achieving these improvements is through implementing ERP system, which has designed business process to improve performance. Taking a life cycle approach will help organizations achieve their process improvement goals with ERP. BPM can be part of this ERP life cycle. Understanding an ERP system life cycle and its effect on today's organization is essential to fulfilling the long-term investment in an ERP system. As shown in this figure, ERP implementation is not a one-time implementation. It requires a continuous cycle of product release and support. The key to a successful implementation is to use a proven methodology, to take it one step at a time, and to begin with understanding the ERP life cycle. When a system implementation doesn't have a well-defined methodology, deadlines will be missed, budgets will be overspent, and functionality will not meet the client's needs and requirements. ERP system implementation can be very risky, so using a well-defined project plan with a proven methodology will assist managing those risks. There must be a strong, well-communicated need to make the change from the existing information systems to an ERP system before starting any implementation. There should also be clear and well-defined business objectives written and communicated to the organization. The project methodology needs to be documented, reviewed, and fully understood by everyone included in the project. There are many methodologies documented and used in the ERP system implementation. This figure shows a sample of ERP implementation methodology, in which there are 5 phases of the life cycle, from requirement gathering analysis to stabilization and production support, which are applied to the 3 levels of ERP implementation: functional, technical, and organizational. ERP implementation strategies include implementing an ERP system is problematic without first considering current business processes and changes to those processes based on the functionality of the new system. If business processes are not analyzed and compared with what the new system can do, it's very likely the implementation will require significant system modifications after implementation. In developing the business case for an ERP implementation, you must decide the number of the modifications to be made to address business requirements. An implementation with considerable modifications to the ERP software package, also called a chocolate implementation, can increase the chances of success with the users because the package has been customized based on user requirements. However, modifications increase the investment in the system and higher implementation risk. In a purchase system like ERP, modifying the system means that every modification will have to be addressed each time the system is upgraded, where most purchased ERP systems today are minimally modified or as is to protect the investment in the system, which is called a vanilla implementation. The number of organizations using the Internet had increased since the early 1990s. The Internet and web browsers have created an environment that allows for information systems to move out everywhere. Information systems have grown in functionality and availability. They have also become increasingly complex and difficult to develop. From 1960s through the early of 1990s, many organizations were very capable of developing an information system applications in-house. The development time was not lengthy, and the system's development was not complex. However, it became very complex today. Most organizations lack the skills and desire to spend the time and money developing an ERP system in-house. That's why many more organizations have chosen to purchase ERPs from the market. ERP systems consist of computer applications that support and connect all business processes and offer a link to customers and suppliers. When an organization realizes that its legacy system is keeping it from efficiently serving customers and that their operations need process improvements, they should consider investing in an ERP system. The selection of a vendor-developed ERP system is a challenging job because the organization must find both a system that is most appropriate for its operational needs and a vendor to become a partner for quite some time. Before selecting a vendor, the organization must carefully evaluate its current and future needs in enterprise management system. This needs assessment can begin by looking at the size of the organization in terms of number of employees that will be accessing the ERP applications. Also, the assessment must consider the industry of organization and the functional area that the ERP application will be supporting. In addition, it must review also the existing hardware, network, and software infrastructure, and finally, the available resources of money and people for the implementation. The criteria developed from the needs assessment can help the organization to narrow down the vendors and select a few of 3 or 4 and then invite them to submit their bids for the project. During this phase, vendors should be asked to install their application as sandbox on the company's IT infrastructure and to make it available to potential users for testing. Also, the vendors need to be evaluated according to business functions or modules supported by their software, features and integration capabilities of the software, the financial viability of the vendor as well, length of time they have been in business, the license and upgrade policies, customer service and help desk support, the total cost of ownership, IT infrastructure requirements, third-party software integration, legacy systems support and integration, consulting and training services, and finally future goals and plans for the short and long terms. During the operations and post-implementation phase, Go Live is one of the most critical points in the project's success, where a lot of time and resources have been spent to get to this point. In evaluating an ERP project readiness to going live, it's important to focus the efforts of the teams to ensure that tasks and activities are completed before going live. This allows project management to address any outstanding issues that may risk the go-live date. This involves a readiness process that needs to include as many team members, users, and managers as possible because it helps the overall organization understand that the implementation and the change will be taking place. Many ERP implementations have turned into disastrous events during or after the going live stage. Much of the success of the implementation, therefore, is in the stabilization and post-production support process. Stabilization is the time from going live to about 90 days after or until the number of issues and problems has been reduced. An effective response to stabilization issues will determine how well the system is accepted by the end users and management. The 5 areas of stabilization include training for end users, reactive support, auditing support to make sure data quality is not compromised by new system, data fix to solve data migration and errors that are revealed by audits, and finally new features and functionalities to support the evolving needs of the system. Daily and continuous monitoring of the implementation issues will provide an appropriate time to move to the post-production support phase. This phase also addresses the backlog of the development issues, evaluates new business processes, and provides more updated training. Now we are going to discuss the people and organization in ERP system implementation. For successfully implement an ERP system, project management must provide strong leadership, a clear implementation plan, and close monitoring of the budget. In the figure shown in this slide, the fundamental balance of project management, though any change to one side of the triangle will require a change to one or more sides. The role of project manager is one of the riskiest jobs in an ERP implementation. A successful project manager must be process-driven and understand the value of an implementation methodology. A key component to project management is to understand and communicate the ERP system application management lifecycle. As mentioned previously, ERP system implementation is high risk. It's critical to assess and understand the organization's capacity for implementing such a complex system. The cost of failure are great, and the number of failures is much too high. The development of a credible implementation plan, budget estimates, and deadlines is critical to a project success. So it's often the case for organizations without ERP implementation experience to use implementation partners such as consultants. For system implementations, the change management role is essential because it prepares the organization for changes for how its business is done. In implementing a new system, communicating, preparing, and setting expectations are as important as training and supporting the implementation. Effective communication of expectations will reduce risk and better ensure that the system is accepted once it's implemented. Business process reengineering is a business process management strategy used for the analysis and design of workflows and business processes within an organization to help organizations rethink how they do their work in order to improve customer service, cut operational costs, and become world-class competitor. Outsourcing and offshoring have become common themes across all industries when it comes to IT development, maintenance, and support. Globalization has impacted ERP systems in many ways. First, most of ERP vendors are global, so vendors such as SAP, Oracle, Microsoft have support offices and development teams spread around the globe. Second, large ERP implementation consultants have global offices and staff to help clients in ERP implementation projects all over the world. Finally, software as a service is an emerging model for outsourcing for many companies that do not want to invest large amounts of money on in-house ERP implementation. There has been a widespread increase in corporate white-collar crimes, such as corrupted accounting and marketing practices, privacy violations, unauthorized data sharing, spam mail, viruses, snooping, and identity theft. All these unethical practices have indirectly impacted ERP systems due to their importance in the organization and direct integration with the database. Compliance management due to such regulations are fast-growing software support area, and several ERP vendors have started providing software modules or tools to support compliance management. Organizations are implementing security services to manage access and control in ERP systems, and they are developing awareness programs across their organizations to help staff and management understand the importance of security breaches within an ERP. The seamless integration of ERP software only increase the risk of both hackers who break through perimeter security and insiders who abuse system privileges to misappropriate assets through acts of fraud. The ERP world requires a new way of thinking about security and business transactions that inflict financial losses from system-based fraud, abuse, and errors. The ERP software market has experienced huge growth in the last decade. The Global Industry Analyst Report in 2010 analyzed ERP software market worldwide by revenue and application type. Key players dominating the global ERP software market include Tier 1 includes large vendors like SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft, who provide support for large companies. Tier 2 includes vendors supporting the mid-sized companies, and Tier 3 vendors support small companies. Now let's see some of the ERP well-known vendors. SAP is the global leader among ERP vendors with over 12 million users. Oracle comes in the second place of ERP vendors, where it provides solutions divided by industry and promises long-term support for customers. Infor, the world's third largest provider of ERP systems, it delivers integrated enterprise solutions in supply chain, customer relations, and supplier management. The Microsoft Dynamics is a comprehensive business management solution built on the Microsoft platform. Lawson is an industry-tailored software solution that includes enterprise performance management, distribution, financials, human resources, procurement, and retail operations. SSA Global offers solutions that accomplish specific goals in short time frames, and they are very efficient with time. Epicor provides enterprise software solutions for mid-market companies around the world and have solutions to a variety of needs, whether a customer is looking for a complete end-to-end enterprise software solution or a specific application. Now finally we'll discuss the software extensions and trends. As e-business firms started growing bigger with advanced needs in HR, accounting, and warehousing, non-ERP vendors were unable to support the requirements. So ERP vendors started to expand their functionality to the internet and e-business. Intense competition and unstable sales have forced the ERP vendors to expanding their software functionality to add value and to support new organizational needs from customer support, global supply chain, and emerging technologies platforms such as open source software and service-oriented architecture. Open source addresses offering the ERP vendors backed applications to smaller enterprises to run as is, requiring little or no IT investment. While service-oriented architecture implementation will continue to grow as a factor in ERP purchase decisions because vendors are using creative marketing around product strategies versus buying what is currently available. The other major revenue shift is towards software as a service or hosted subscription-based applications. Also, social networking is now ready for more significant growth. Managers implementing ERP systems in their companies should remember that ERP system implementation is a complex organizational activity, so it's important to evaluate and learn from the success and failures, and to manage risk is about keeping project focus and clear communication throughout the organization. ERP system implementation requires strong project management oversight and must be continually evaluated for project status, effectiveness, and risk to all the organization. ERP systems provide improved and added functionality for an organization, where it creates an advantage by strategically cutting costs, increasing profit margins, and growing the enterprise. Integrated business processes and data also provide for improved strategic reporting for planning and decision making. ERP systems are set to grow globally, where the globalization of commerce and the internet bring the world close to each other, and understanding how these systems work and the effect they will have on organization is necessary. So in summary, ERP components consist of hardware, software, information, process, and people to perform the fundamental phases of an information system: input, process, and output. ERP system architecture is a blueprint of the actual ERP system. There are two types of architectures, the physical and the logical. The selection of a system must be based on the needs of the organization and how will the vendors meet those needs now or in the future. To be successful in implementing an ERP system, an organization and its management must clearly understand the implementation process, using the application of an ERP life cycle and methodology throughout an implementation phase. People and organizations are an important part of the implementation process. Without in-house experts, the organization should hire the software vendor or a third party to lead the project. Whereas ERP implementation are costly in time and resources, the greater costs include the process change and system maintenance. Thank you and see you next week.